As President Trump rolls back diversity, equity, and inclusion protections, Americans with disabilities are raising their concerns about how the Trump administration's actions could make their day-to-day life more challenging, and how threats to eliminate the Department of Education and cut Medicaid could potentially reverse some of the progress made over the last several decades. Joining me now is Katy Neas. She is the CEO of the nonprofit The Arc, which is filled with people with intellectual and developmental disabilities. And I know you work on behalf of them. Can you give us some sense of how Trump's DEI purges are affecting people with disabilities?
Absolutely. Thanks so much for having me on. I'd like to just remind your viewers that disability is a natural part of the human experience. All of us at some point in our life, whether it's due to age or illness or injury, are likely to experience a disability. And disability does not discriminate. All families are affected by disability, regardless of race, ethnicity, sex, income, or political party. So people with disabilities are in our families, in our communities every day, and are part of the group of people that we all love.
What is your organization seeing and hearing from people with disabilities who are being impacted by some of these new policies from the Trump administration?
People are very concerned. They're concerned that their kids with disabilities who have the right to attend the public school and get a good education are not going to get it. They're very concerned that the health care that they get from the Medicaid program is going to be taken away. They're very concerned that the services that Medicaid provides, especially to adults that allow them to live at home and not in an institution, are going to be cut back. And just in general, they're very concerned about what these policies mean for their families, for their independence, and for their future.
The Republicans in the House are proposing $880 billion cuts to Medicaid. With that amount of money, I mean, we're talking nearly $1 trillion to be cut out of Medicaid. Is that something that is just going to dismantle Medicaid, in your opinion?
These cuts are dramatic. These are not small cuts. And I want folks to know what Medicaid really does. Medicaid will pay for a newborn with Down syndrome who has a heart condition and may need 1 or 2 surgeries. Medicaid will pay for that same baby with Down syndrome that needs physical therapy to gain strength to learn to sit up and crawl and walk. Medicaid pays for speech therapy for kids with language delays. Medicaid pays for basic health care for people with disabilities that they can't otherwise get. We don't want those things to be taken away from people with disabilities and their families. And that's what's the potential of these cuts. I just saw your clip this morning that some in Congress are saying they can find cuts from waste, fraud, and abuse. I'm not convinced that that's accurate. I think we have dramatic unmet needs within the Medicaid program, and that what we need is people need more access to these services and not less.
There is this argument made when looking at Medicare and Medicaid that there's something like $100 million in unapproved payments, and they're trying to figure out where that money is. I mean, isn't there some argument that you have to start looking at the fraud more deeply?
Here's what I would say. We have laws that establish a set of services for people. We need the people who are responsible for ensuring that the law is effectively implemented to do their job. And that's in large part what the federal government is supposed to do, is to make sure that states are overseeing contractors, that they are following the rules. It is not people with disabilities that need to bear the brunt of that. We need government to be effective, absolutely. But to be effective is not just to cut services away from people who need them to live with independence.
Katy Neas, thank you so much for your perspective on all of this and speaking on behalf of those who perhaps are unable to speak for themselves. Really appreciate you coming on this morning.